Alright, this lesson's on domain and range, so I'm going to go through and show you the different domain and range of different representations. These are different ways to represent relations, which means just points. So we're going to start with the tables. What do y'all remember of domain and range?
Dora.
Dora, okay, so what does that mean? I know, I heard that in my other class. What does Dora mean? Okay. So domain are the X, so they think of Dora. So D-O for domain, right? And then the Ra?
For range.
For range. Very good. So that's how you remember it, great. Now I have a little song that I sing, I think I've sang it to y'all before, here's a little T-chart, short and right. Domain is on the left and range is on the right. Choose your independence, plug them in, and out come dependence once again.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Is Vincent Alexandra Morales to the office?
she's on her way now.
I'm sorry?
She's on her way.
Okay, thank you.
Alright, so domain is on the left, that's your X's, range is on the right. And so when they want the domain here, let's put an X in front of the word domain, and let's put a little Y in front of the word range. Because they literally just want you to list them. So we're going to list these domain numbers, or we're going to put them in order from least to greatest. So -2, and then we would list 0 next. So want to put them in order, and then 3. Don't write the 3 twice. You only need to list each number one time. I don't care if it's there like a bunch of times, just list it. Each number needs to be listed only once. Now range is your Y numbers, so that's these numbers here. And again, let's put them in order. And you put them in the little squiggly brackets. That's what I call that. It's -4, and then 1. Very good. 2, 6. Now, something else they might ask you on the STAAR test is this table a function? So what is a function? Who can tell me what a function is? X's don't repeat. This is why she got commended, right? You got commended on. You got close though, right?
That table is not a function.
Why?
Because there's 2 3s.
Because there's 2 3s. So right here it has repeated X's. So Juana said it cannot have repeated X's. Omar's saying so this one has 2 3s. It cannot be a function. So put no, but put Y. Put repeated X's. Okay. And guys, there was a question like that on the benchmark. It was last year's STAAR test, and we did not have 100% on it. It was just, but I think it was the way they worded it. They said, which one of the following is Y a function of X? That's how they say it, Y a function of X. And that threw everybody off. They were like, what does that even mean? The key word was function. If you see the key word and they're asking which ones are Y a function of X, that's what they're asking you, is check your X's to see if they repeat. Because if they do like this one, then it's not. Alright, so now over here is a different way to represent points. You see, sometimes we represent them like this. But again, think of Dora, or think of domain is on the left, range is on the right, because these are your X's and these are your Y's. These are just coordinates. They're points. So ordered pairs are just a fancy way to represent coordinates. Fancy way to say coordinates. So let's list them. And again, you want to list them from left to right. So your domain are the X's only. So I'm going to highlight them so we can kind of look at them first. We have a -1, we have a 0, and we have a 2. And they're already in order, actually. So let's put them in order. -1, 0, and 2. Your range are your Y numbers. So I'm going to highlight those in a different color. Now, on the STAAR, they only give you one color of highlighter. Okay? So, but like in your notes, maybe you should, start using 2 colors for your notes so that way when stuff like this comes up, you can see the clear difference. Some of you are very visual, that will help you. So these are your Y numbers, those are your range. So 2, 5, and 7. Now is this a function?
Yes.
Yes it is. Look at each X. There's your X there, there's your X there, and all of them are only there one time. So yes, this is a function. And right here put Y. No repeated X's. I think the one on the STAAR that you guys took, the benchmarks, it was a table. And it had a bunch of tables, and they wanted you to pick the one that was a function. Y'all remember that one?
No.
No? I'll show it to you tomorrow. I actually put them all on one page, like all the domain and range. There was 5, and I think there was 1 function, or 4 and 1, or something like that. But I put them all on one page so that you could see. Alright, so this one is a mapping. So this is just another way to represent points. So these are points, those are points, these are points too. This is your X, this is your Y. That's how it works, kind of like a table. The only difference is they use little arrows to show you how the points are together. Like the 1 is with 3, and then the 1 is also with 4, right? So right away, you can tell, hey, I have repeated X's right there. That 1 is there twice. So there's no way that this can be a function. So already we're thinking ahead, that's good. Now, what is your domain? Well, these numbers. So you just basically list them, right? So what are they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they're already in order and everything. And then your range are your Y numbers. So what are your range numbers? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we already said, no, it's not a function because of what I highlighted here. Repeated X's right there. So repeated X's. I think somebody in my other class said that some teacher was like, yeah, you gotta think of like ex-girlfriends. You can't have a lot of them. Like, you shouldn't have, you know, a lot of ex-girlfriends or something like that. I don't know. So I was like, okay, whatever works. However you remember it, you know. You just need to remember this. No repeated X's. Can the Y's repeat?
Yes.
Yeah, the Y's can. Nobody cares about those. They have to be there. Like, we do care about them because they have to be an X with the Y. But they do not have to. They can repeat if they want. Alright, so let's look at the graph then. Here, they have them on a graph. They have a bunch of coordinates. And again, all of these are coordinates. They just took now and they put them on a grid. So now what you're going to do is actually make a table. Out here on the side, what we can do is list the coordinates so that we have the numbers. We need those numbers. We need to list them. So we look at this point, we say, okay, the coordinate of this one is negative 3, 0. And then the coordinate of, I don't know, let's go with this one next, is negative 1, negative 1. And then we also have another point there at negative 1. So already you can tell what? It's repeating right there. They got 2 points on the same vertical line. Here you have what? 1, 3. Coordinates 1, 3. Here it's 2, 0. And what is that? 3, negative 3. Okay. So once you list them, then you can clearly see them. Like, here are your domain values, here are your range. Just put them in order though. So you do have to put them in least to greatest. So we would put what? Negative 3, negative 1, just write it once, and then 1, 2, 3. And then your range are your Y's, and again, you just kind of look at the lowest. The lowest is negative 3, negative 1, 0, 2, 3, 0, 2, 3. Is it a function? We said no, right? Because right here, like if you have a highlighter, highlight those two right there. And you can highlight the vertical line too, because in my other class, people remember, they were like, didn't you tell us that if we check the vertical lines, you can't have more than 1 point on it? And I was like, yeah, that's called the vertical line test. So that was good that they remembered that. Okay, so you can check your vertical lines and make sure there's only 1 point. See, this one had 2. There should only be 1 point on each vertical line. So no, it's not a function. It has repeated X's. Any questions on that?
No.
Jump right into that. Alright, so that's basically what domain and range are. Now on the STAAR, they were a little more difficult. Like I said, they were on a graph. This is more like what they had on the STAAR. So that's why I gave you the next 2 handouts. Because on the next 2, it explains more or less what they look like on the STAAR test. Okay? And like I said, I'll show you the actual problems tomorrow, but today I wanted to kind of like just show you how you would have figured it out. Now, some of you figured it out because, again, they have multiple choice, so you were able to go, well, I know domain is x, and it's between these two x's, so some of you, I think, were able to figure it out, like you used common sense. Alright, so let's start with number 1 here. Let's start with domain. We're going to put domain, so let's put a D for domain. We're going to do range. And then we're going to tell if it's a function or not. So let's write the word function on that one. Function or not. Either yes or no. So, what's different about this picture than the one I just showed you? The one I just showed you looks like this. It has 2 points, but then it has a bunch of points in between. So it doesn't have just 2 points. They connected those 2 points with a line, which means there are infinite points in between these 2 points. So all of this is a point, that's a point, that's a point. Yeah, so what we need to do is we need to figure out, okay, we know domain are the x's, right? We know that. We know it's going to be between 2 numbers, but what 2 numbers are they? Well, let's look at the x-axis, and let's see. How far to the left does this go? Make a little mark right here. Like, what is that number right there? -2. Okay. How far to the right does this line segment go on the x? This is the furthest. I see this point right here, and this is at what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, it's all the x's, you can put an x, in between. I call these in-between symbols. I know that's not what they're called, they're inequalities, but when I see 2 of them like that, it's my in-between symbols. And it's in between these 2 numbers. -2, you put that one first, because it's the least one, and then you put the greatest one here. Now, are the points shaded at that -2? Is this point shaded at that +5? So then you should have this little symbol in there too, because that means equal to. So it's all the numbers in between -2 and a +5, everything in between those. That's what this inequality represents. Joshua, stop. Speak up. Range is different. Range are the y's. Put a little X on this one so you remember, this is y. So now instead of looking left to right, how do we need to look at this? Well, this is your y-axis. So actually let's look at the lowest, because we want the least. You remember on this one we started with the left side and then we went to the greatest value, so least to greatest. So let's look at the y the same way. Let's look at the lowest value to the highest value. Least to greatest. So what's the least that it goes? Negative what? -2. What's the highest that it goes? 1, right? +1. So that's the least, that's the highest, but it's everything in between as well because of that line. All of those are points. So all of those points are going to use one of these y's. And so it's everything between this -2 and this +1. So this is how you write it. Put your y, because we know it's the y values. Put the in-between symbols, which are the 2 L's. Think of them as L's. And put the 2 numbers. Always put the least one first. So we're going to put -2 first. And then the greatest value, which is 1. Now, is that lowest point shaded? Yes, so put that little equal sign in there. Is the highest point shaded?
Yes.
Okay, so you need to put the equal sign in there. So in other words, it's everything between -2 and 1, including -2 and 1. That's what that little equal sign means. It includes those numbers too, not just everything in between, but those 2 numbers as well. Does that make sense?
No.
No? All it's doing is this. Think of it as this. I'm going to use my rulers. When you look at domain, all you need to do is think of it as borders, like a border. This is the furthest it goes, and this is the furthest it goes. So it's between those 2 numbers, at -2 and 5. And then do the same thing for range. This is the lowest it goes, and I can't reach up there. And then the 1 is the highest, right? So it's kind of like Madonna. You remember Madonna used to do both? This is domain. She would do the little boat thing, I don't know. It's from the left to the right. That's domain. Look at it from left to right. And then range, you're going to do bottom to the top. So if you think of Madonna when she used to dance the little boat thing, it was left to right and then bottom up. Okay? So maybe that'll help you remember. I know you like Madonna, right? You're like, we don't even know where she is, but who's that? I'm old, that's me, no more.
I didn't say you're old, I said she's old.
Oh, yeah, she is. We're about the same age, I think, actually. Alright, so, is it a function? Let's go back to this problem right here. Is it a function?
No.
Well, check your vertical lines. Does that go through 1 point? Yes. Does that one? Yes. Does that one? Yes. Like all of these vertical lines cross that function in one place only. So yes, it passed the vertical line test. It is a function. No repeated x's in there. Okay? Now this one is like the one that I showed you earlier. So try that one on your own. I want you to find me the domain. You should be able to do this. The domain, find me the range, and tell me if it's a function. Domain, range, function. Look at the example if you have to. You can always flip back and look at the example. Tell me the domain, the range, and the function. I'll show you a video of Madonna so you kind of understand where I'm coming from. Because y'all didn't get that at all. Do y'all remember the song Vogue? No. Okay, I'll have to show it to you, because that's what I pictured in my mind when I was doing domain and range today. I was like, oh my god, I look like Madonna doing this. You'll see what I mean when I show you the video. I bet you when you see it, you're going to be like, okay, I've heard that song before. They probably play it on the radio sometimes. Alright, so what's your domain? What x's are we going to use? Like these 2 points, where are they on what x? What x is this? -2. Okay, now keep going and move, find some other points. I see another one right here. Where's this one at? 1. And where's this last one at? 2. Now, you could have listed a table, like when I showed you how to do this, you could list your coordinates here, right? And you know what? It helps. I like that you did that. You followed my strategy, and that really helps, because then you can go, okay, this point is at -2, +2. This point was at -2, -3. And then how about this one? What is that? 1, 3. And then this one, 2, -3. Now what I was doing was just kind of like looking at the x. I was saying this point is at this, and then that point is on that x, and then this point is on that x, right? Now you can do that as well. So what would be the range then? Now that we have them listed.
-3, 2, 3.
Very good. -3, 2, 3. So see, if they give you something as simple as that one on the STAAR, don't get it wrong. Like, that's your chance to get commended, is every question counts. Now, is it a function?
No.
Why? Because you have repeated x's. Very good. Right here, when you make the table, you see it very clearly. Now, when you look at your graph too, like look at the vertical line right there. There's 2 dots on that vertical line. So these are the 2 points. These 2 right here where they have the same x. So right here you can put no. Okay? Any questions? Pretty easy? Alright, so now I'm about to blow your mind because the next one is a little different. What's different about number 3? Right, it's array. I don't know if y'all remember from middle school, like they probably talked about lines and how they go forever in both directions. And then the first one we did was what, a line segment, right? This one right here. That one was a line segment. And then you've got this one here, which is a ray. Think of the ray, like the sun's rays. When they come down and you see them coming down through the clouds, and they look very pretty. The sun is, think of this as the sun, and then that's the light shooting out. That's why they call it sun's rays. So on this one, it's going to look a little different. In other words, don't expect the answers to look like that or that. If it's a totally different graph with an arrow on it like that, it's a totally different answer. Hey. So let's look at, well, if you want me to do that, then stay away. Like, get water and spray it on you too. Alright, so here's number 3. This one, what we need to do is the same thing though. You're still going to do the same thing. You're going to look from left to right. So when we do domain, it's the x's that we want to look at. So here are your x's right here. How far to the left does this graph go? Well, this is where it is right here. How far to the left is that? -3, right? Okay. How far to the right does it go? Well, does it stop here though? What does that arrow mean? That it keeps going and going and going and going forever and ever and ever and ever. So you're not going to stop at the look. If I'm going and keep going, I'm going to end up at 4 eventually, and then this point will end up at 5, and so forth. So what you need to understand is you're going to use all the x's from here in this direction. You're going to use all of those x's till infinity, from -3 all the way that way. So if you have a marker, a highlighter, like shade that in so you understand that you're going to use everything from -3 to the right. So how can we describe that? Are those numbers greater than -3 or less? Greater, right? So this is how you can describe it. It's all the x's, because that's what they are. You got to tell me what they are. They're x's. Greater than and equal to, because remember it was shaded, -3. That's how you can describe it. You see how that answer is different from the first answer and the second? They are different. They look different because the graph is different. Now let's look at the range. The range are the y numbers. Again, put a little y right here so you remember that. So now we need to say, okay, here we look like left to right, but now we need to look from the bottom up. So this is the lowest it goes. We're looking at the y-axis. Remember, we're looking at this number line. You're not going to use anything past, what, 1?
Yes.
You're not going to use 0. You're not going to use -1. You're not going to use any of those numbers. You're going to use numbers from here all the way up. So how would we describe that? Y is what? Is it less? Is 2 less than 1? 3 less than 1? Greater than and equal to, because it's shaded, remember this point was shaded, to 1. Okay. Now is it a function?
Yes.
Okay, so it is a function. So look at the answers. You need to understand there are different types of answers. Don't expect them all to look the same. This one had 2 numbers because it started and then it stopped. That's a line segment. They start and then they stop. Here they were just individual numbers. We were just listing numbers because these points were not connected. They're all separated. So we're just listing the x's and y's. Whereas on this one, it went in one direction. So we knew it was like from here up or from here that way. So look at the way the answer looks. That's a single inequality. So I do want you to try number 4 because number 4 is very similar to this one. So you know how we did 1 and it has the 2 numbers, it starts and stops? I want you to try number 4 next. So go ahead and try this one, this quadratic. It's like a little piece of a quadratic. Give me the domain, the range, and the function. So domain, and if you have to look back at the example, that's fine. Tell me the domain, range, and function. Remember, vogue, left to right. You have to do it like this. Left side to the right side. And then range is from the bottom, the lowest point, to the highest. So left to right, bottom up. So try it. You can do this. It's easier on the STAAR because they give you multiple choice. So you can kind of look at the 4 answers and kind of figure it out like that. But try it. Try it. Look at the example I gave you and try it. I told you already, it looks like example 1. The answer will look like example 1, where you'll have your 2 numbers. This is where you need to challenge yourself. Like those of you who want commended, okay, I'm showing you something, now see if you learned it. And if not, then ask questions, and then tomorrow we'll hit it again. Like we'll go over domain and range again where you can practice some more. Because there's 5 questions. If you want commended, you've got to get those 5 right. They're the easy ones to get right. There's no calculator involved, there's no solving, nothing. You're just looking at the graph, boom, boom, there's my domain.
How many do you get right to get commended?
42 to get commended. 42 questions correct, which is like making a 78 on a 7. I think so.
Yeah.
And what other? Okay, well, how far is it up to go? 0, and then 5, and then the bottom, what do you think? That's probably good right now.
Oh, okay.
So you had it almost. Alright, so, did y'all figure it out?
No.
Alright, so here we go. Let's try it. First of all, what does domain mean?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to already tell you that. So in other words, guys, if they ask you for domain and you look at the answers, and some of the answers say, why is this and why is that, get rid of them.
Gone.
You know domain is X. Get rid and eliminate things that say Y. So now, let's look at the X's. So this is my X-axis. The furthest it goes to the left, start on the left side, is what? 0. Okay, so right here. What's the furthest it goes to the right? 5. Okay. So, put your in-between symbols like I showed you, the 2 L's, put the 0, put the 5, and then go back and see, okay, were they shaded? So this point, is that shaded at 0? No. So don't put the little equal sign there. Is this one shaded? Yes, so put the little equal sign on that. That's it. That's domain between 0 and 5, and it includes 5. So it's all of this. Like if you want to shade something, it's everything in here, and it includes that point, but it does not include that one. That's why I'm going to leave that one open. Okay? Now let's look at range. Okay, range are the Y's. That's this number line. Don't even look at that no more. Look at that number line going like this. So, put Y, put your in-between symbols that you know it's always going to have. So it's going to be the 2 L's. If they throw anything else at you, just mark them out. And then what's the lowest? Okay, so the lowest it goes, I'm going to erase that so you can see, is 0. So right here, and it is shaded. What's the highest it goes? 4. See, a lot of you said 2, and they would have that answer there. It is not 2. This graph keeps going further up. This is the highest value right here. The highest maximum, this is the maximum, remember? So you would have got it wrong because they would have had 2 on the answer. They know some of you are going to say 2 because they want you to know your stuff. Alright, and guys, this is shaded. I know a lot of you don't think this is shaded, but this is going right through 4. Okay? Now, the bottom one was shaded as well. So 0 to 4, and then 0 is shaded, clearly shaded, and then this goes through, right through it. So that's like having a shaded point there. Because remember, all of these are points. Every single, there's a bunch of points on this curve. So that one is shaded also. Okay? So left to right, low to high. That's all you're doing. It's kind of like you're making a box. Watch. I've seen teachers do this. They make like a little box around it. And they say, what's the length of your box? And right away the kids go, oh, it's from 0 to 5. And then what's the width of your box? Oh, from 0 to 4. So if you have to make like a little box, make a little box. Was it a function?
Yes.
Yes. Check your vertical lines. It all goes through one point.
This one's a good lesson.
Good. So tomorrow I'm going to have you practice. I hope you understood that. If not, well, we'll have one more day. And then we'll throw it in during the STAAR review again. So that way you guys can get that. Yeah, it's recording everything right now. Alright. See ya. Say bye, everybody.
Bye.
Go to